Good morning, Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington, the 23rd of December, 2 days from the Nativity of Jesus, Christmas Day. And it is Wednesday, Hump Day. Not that that means anything in a holiday week, right? A lot of people have tomorrow off and Friday. One or two more shopping days today, grocery day tomorrow. If it's not in the UPS delivery, then it'll be after Christmas. I don't think they deliver Christmas Day. At least I hope they don't, for the sake of their families. I really do. Tomorrow evening, 7 p.m., Holy Communion worship, both in the sanctuary at 300 Euclid, Grandview, Washington, and in your homes through Zoom. We'll make sure we send out the links, but I invite you today to begin thinking about how you'll prepare your space for it. It's been easy to be comfy, cozy in your PJs and slippers with the feet up in the recliner and your iPad in front of you and your bread and cup ready for communion. But tomorrow night we will also do the candle lighting ceremony. We will light candles as we sing the first verse of What Child Is This? And then, with our candles lit, both in the sanctuary of the church and in your homes, we will sing all three verses of Silent Night, as is our tradition. And as I said on Sunday, we're going to make history. Throughout the world, the Christian church will be celebrating candlelight, singing Silent Night, as we have done for 150 years, but never before through this hybrid technology of Zoom. It's a first. I will not have a daily message tomorrow or Christmas Day or Saturday. So the next time you will see me would be tomorrow during worship, 7 p.m., and then again Sunday morning worship, 10 a.m., no class Sunday morning. So then the next daily message will come Monday after Christmas week, the beginning of the new week, when we prepare for that wonderful occasion we've been looking forward to, and it's called leaving 2020 behind. Not that 2021 is going to start off vastly different. It's going to drag a lot of 2020 with it for several months. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. So today, I want to look at how Matthew uses the book of Exodus. We've been looking at Exodus these last several weeks. Matthew is really the Jewish gospel. Matthew is the one who, if you recall, starts out by making sure that we understand Jesus' lineage from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob down to the Mosaic covenant, the leaving of Egypt, and that whole event of the Exodus down to King David and the dynasty, the throne established by David, down to Joseph, Jesus' earthly father. Matthew wants to make sure that all Jews understand Jesus is the long-awaited Messiah. And so Jesus himself, as a Jew of the tribe of Judah on his father's side, his earthly father's side, and on his mother's side of the Levitic tribe, the priestly order, Jesus is going to know the scriptures. He's going to live the scriptures, excuse me, but he will use them in some different ways than the rabbis of his day will. The first quotes of Exodus come from the Beatitudes, the well-known Sermon on the Mount, found in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. And he will start off by quoting, saying, well, now you've heard it this way, but then he adds these words, but I say to you. And so the first, Matthew 5:21, you have heard it was said in ancient times, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. That comes from Exodus 20, chapter 13, from the 10 words, or the 10 commandments. Excuse me, dry air. He goes on then to say, though, but I say to you, if you are angry with someone, you'll be liable to judgment. So he equates anger. He raises the bar. Now the bar, if you think the Ten Commandments are pretty strict, well, then you're not really trying, right? Although when we look at the Ten Commandments today, as I say, there's a whole bunch of them that are not laws in our land. Murder, yeah, that'll get you life in prison. Stealing, you bet, they're going to put you away. What about the others? Honoring your father and mother. Oh boy, people honor mom and dad, or they don't. There's no penalty, although you're teaching your grandkids how to treat you when you get old. And if you haven't taken care of your parents, well, you get what's coming to you. Coveting, as I have said before, the U.S. economy would come to a grinding halt if we stopped coveting. Adultery, oh boy, if there were only a penalty for that, like there used to be in colonial times, putting you in the stocks in the public square, or in Jesus' time, taking you out and stoning you. Wow. And now you're caught in adultery, you lie about it, then you admit it, and you get a divorce attorney, and you live happily ever after until you start cheating on that one. Using God's name in vain, having other gods. Oh boy, yeah. It just seems like there aren't a lot of commandments that have translated into our law. They're part of our moral fabric, which has really become unraveled in so many ways. And Jesus, rather than saying, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want, the commandments are really more like the 10 suggestions, he takes a handful of them. Now, you would think Jesus would quote the commandment, honor the Sabbath. And in fact, violating the Sabbath. One day he and his disciples were going through a grain field, and they're doing what gleaners do, picking the grain that's left over and eating it because they're hungry. Just chewing on wheat. And if you've ever been through a wheat field, it's a little hard, but you can chew it and it is nutritious. I've done it. Anybody who's grown up near wheat farming has done that. You grow up near orchard or berries or all of that. Who hasn't eaten right off the land? Those of us who grew up near farms and had families who had farms as part of our families or extended families. My goodness, it's what you do, and it's Sunday and there's a berry that's ripe today and by tomorrow it's going to be too ripe. What's wrong with that? And Jesus said to those who criticized him, God didn't make humans for the Sabbath. He made the Sabbath for humans. So he's saying there's a spirit of the law. And in some cases, the spirit of the law expands that law and says, look at it in a way that gives life. And in some cases, he raises the bar and makes that law so tight that we can't not break it. And that's the law of murder from Exodus 20:13, as he quotes in Matthew 5:21. If you're angry, you've murdered. And then 5:27, 6 verses later, you have heard it was said, you shall not commit adultery. And he says, you look upon someone with lust. Well, you've done it in your heart. Like the comedian George Carlin, who himself was raised Catholic, used to say, you don't have to go out and sin. All you have to do is think about it, and you're guilty. Wow, saved myself the bus fare. I just thought I sinned. I did. It involves the heart and the mind. Oh boy. So adultery. Jesus picks out murder and adultery right away. So these are things that destroy societies, he says. And then he goes on. You have heard it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, from Exodus 21:24, part of these expanded laws. So after the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20, I talked about the additional laws, and this is where they get very specific. The law of equivalent retribution, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, an ox for an ox. And all those laws about, well, if your ox gored my ox, then we split the ox and I give you half the price for it. Unless you knew my ox had a tendency to gore and I didn't keep it, and in which case I pay you for the ox and you get the meat. Or we burn the ox meat and God gets it. But the next one we'll get then is, where we are, there we are, from Matthew 15. For God said, honor your father and mother. And he will repeat this again in Matthew 19. It's the only time we find Jesus repeating one of the commandments twice. You have heard it said, you will honor your father and mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you, from Exodus chapter 20. Why does he quote this one twice? Again, this is so important. These are essential to building safe, prosperous, peaceful societies. And in Matthew 19, he will then add, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. So murder, adultery, stealing, bearing false witness, lying about another person in front of witnesses, in front of a court, and honoring father and mother. These are the times he will quote the book of Exodus. He will also say then in Matthew 22, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He recalls that Jesus is very much Jewish. Jesus is very much the Jewish hope, the Messiah. He did not come to do away with the Exodus law, but rather to fulfill it. See you tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. on Zoom or in person.